Pontius Pilate is remembered primarily as the Roman governor, or prefect, of Judea who presided over Jesus' trial. His role is central to the Gospel accounts describing the final hours before Jesus' execution. To truly appreciate how Jehovah's Witnesses understand Pilate, we can explore his historical background, his interactions with the Jewish religious leaders, his attitude and decisions during Jesus' trial, and how his character is portrayed in both scripture and JW literature. Historical background and appointment as governor. Jehovah's Witnesses frequently rely on credible historical and archaeological findings that align with the Bible. Secular history indicates that Pilate served as the Roman prefect of Judea from about 26 to 36 CE, or 27 to 37 CE. The Roman Emperor Tiberius appointed him. For the most part, Pilate's role was to maintain order, collect taxes, and ensure that Judea, an often tumultuous province, remained loyal to Rome. From JW.org and various Watchtower Society publications, Jehovah's Witnesses recognize Pilate as a real historical figure validated by archaeological discoveries, such as the so-called Pilate Stone, unearthed in Caesarea Maritima, which contains an inscription bearing Pilate's name and official title. This supports the biblical account of his governorship in Judea. Pontius Pilate's reputation. Jehovah's Witnesses highlight how Pilate is depicted in non-biblical sources, like 1st-century historian Josephus and later writings by Philo of Alexandria, as somewhat headstrong and even brutal. It is said that Pilate sometimes acted with disregard for Jewish sensibilities, which led to clashes with the local population. Such a reputation could explain why the religious leaders of Jesus' time, the chief priests and the Sanhedrin, saw an opportunity to leverage Pilate's authority against Jesus. They knew that if they accused Jesus of sedition, claiming he called himself a king in opposition to Caesar, Pilate would be compelled to address the matter under Roman law. Interactions with Jewish leaders and handling of Jesus' trial. According to the Bible passages used by Jehovah's Witnesses, including Matthew chapter 27 verses 1 to 2, Mark chapter 15 verse 1, Luke chapter 23 verses 1 to 4, and John chapter 18 verses 28 to 38, Pilate was a central figure in the trial. The chief priests and scribes delivered Jesus to Pilate early in the morning after having their own tribunal overnight. They brought political charges against Jesus, saying he was inciting rebellion and calling himself a king, with the hidden intent of forcing Pilate to intervene. Pilate's initial hesitation. From the Gospels, especially the book of John chapter 18, Jehovah's Witnesses infer that Pilate showed hesitancy regarding Jesus' guilt. He asked Jesus direct questions. Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus explained that his kingdom is no part of this world. John chapter 18 verses 36, 37, Pilate, after examining Jesus, told the crowd that he found no fault in him. Despite being a Roman governor, known for heavy-handed tactics, Pilate recognized that Jesus did not pose a genuine threat to Roman authority. External pressures. In the narrative that Jehovah's Witnesses teach, Pilate found himself under immense political and social pressure. If he released Jesus, the Jewish religious leaders might report Pilate to the Emperor Tiberius, accusing him of condoning treason. Roman officials in outlying provinces were often on unstable ground. Just a hint of disloyalty to Caesar could end a governor's career or worse. The crowds, stirred up by the religious leaders, shouted for Jesus to be crucified. They even went as far as to proclaim that Pilate would not be a friend of Caesar if he let Jesus go. John chapter 19 verse 12. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, this statement demonstrated the manipulative methods the religious leaders used to pressure Pilate. The washing of hands and Pilate's guilt. The account in Matthew chapter 27 verse 24 says that Pilate, seeing that a riot was starting, symbolically washed his hands in front of the crowd, expressing his desire to be innocent of the blood of this righteous man. However, Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize that despite this symbolic gesture, Pilate was not truly innocent. He had the legal authority to release Jesus but ultimately capitulated to the crowd for political expediency. Pilate's washing of hands was more of an attempt to shift moral responsibility than a sincere declaration of innocence. In the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses, Pilate did bear responsibility for Jesus' execution because he sanctioned the sentence. Pilate's character and the lesson for believers. Jehovah's Witnesses use Pilate's account as a cautionary tale that highlights weakness of character under pressure. His desire to maintain his position and avoid political backlash overshadowed his sense of justice. Even though Pilate recognized that Jesus was not deserving of death, he chose the path of least resistance, something the organization warns believers today to avoid. They encourage Christians to stand firm for righteous principles rather than succumb to the crowd's demands or to fear of man. Additionally, JW.org articles may focus on how Pilate ironically played a part in fulfilling prophecy. By condemning Jesus to death on a stake, often rendered as torture stake in Jehovah's Witness translations, Pilate unwittingly contributed to one of the greatest events in the Bible narrative, Jesus' sacrificial death for humanity's redemption. Although Pilate's decision came from political survival instincts, Jehovah's Witnesses see how Jehovah's overall purpose was still accomplished. After the trial of Jesus, secular history doesn't have many details about Pilate's later life. Some accounts claim that Pilate was removed from office and recalled to Rome after ordering a harsh crackdown against Samaritans. Please